provides housing. Okay, I'll go back. London Middlesex Community Housing provides housing on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lune, Pequot, and Attawandaron. We acknowledge the local First Nations communities in this area, the territory of the Chippewa of the Thames, the Oneida of the Thames, and the Munsee Delaware Nation. We honor and respect the history, languages, and culture of the diverse Indigenous people who call this territory home. Today, the City of London and Middlesex County is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work and live in this territory. Next is the completion and acceptance of the agenda. So I'll just need a mover and a seconder. Gary's going to move it. Hadley's going to second it. All in favor? That matter is passed. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? I am not aware of any, but if someone wants to indicate them, there are none. Next is approval of the previous minutes. I am going to assume that everyone has read them. Someone prepared to move it. Sarah is going to move it. Greg is going to second it. All those in favor? So the minutes have been approved. There are no communications, no delegations, and no consent agenda items. So the first report is the CEO report. Because of the number of reports, I'm just going to ask people who are presenting reports, give us a quick summary, and then we'll go to questions and get out of here at a reasonable time. So the first is the CEO report. Do you have anything to add to that before questions, Paul?
No, I think just highlight the request for approval of changing some of the meetings. So just this is a report for approval. Just to facilitate business without adding too many meetings that only have one agenda item on them. So the delegated authority to the Finance Committee for the insurance renewal is an important way to sort of keep the business moving without having unnecessary meetings of the board. So I'm happy to discuss that. Just highlight the City of London proactively allocated COCHI funding to LMCH for the first time, $5 million over 3 years, which is an important step. We have always received some funding, but to have it allocated in advance as a budget item helps with our capital planning. And we'll see that in the 2026 capital plan, which the board will receive in November. And I think just the Build Canada Homes consultation is really about the sector needing to give feedback to the federal government on how they invest and support the development, repair, and renewal of community housing. So we are a key stakeholder in that. So the discussion really is around how, if there's any input the board would like us to reflect in our submission to the government on this, and just noting that sector organizations and other housing providers are providing this input, but it's critical that we have our voice at the table, because this will guide the decisions made by the federal government on investing in affordable housing, and that's critical to our future. So just happy to discuss the input from the board on that item.
All right, let's get a moved and seconded before we go. Moved by Kara, seconded by Greg. So we'll go to questions. Sarah, go ahead.
I will send my feedback. I mean, that's my area of expertise. It's not like it's public policies, so I will really enjoy sending the comments. There are many, so I don't want to explain them, but I will send it by mail.
Perfect.
Thank you.
We have until
the 29th. So
yeah,
I think that is next Friday.
Yeah.
My math is correct.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Any other questions, comments? No? Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
When that came up, I think I had some comments in email. I'll just reiterate, just my observation was the federal government's talking a lot about the capital funding, and they're not talking about the operating dollars that needs to go with it, which is really needs to come from the province, because the city doesn't really have the money to put that up. So if we're building a ton more capital with the feds, we need the operating dollars to support that.
And it's because they are focusing new. Yeah, but I mean,
All right. So, thank you. Did you have another comment? You have to sort out.
Yeah.
guided through
Sorry.
this. Do you wanna, make another comment?
No, just that, like.
Okay, great.
If as here, I mean, the public policy here is focused in new housing. So that's why they don't include that, but that's an important thing because your model or our model is to help tenants. If we just help people to buy new houses, we need capital. But if we help people to improve or live in houses that are not there, that's a super important consideration. So I agree. And that will be one of the comments that I will send by mail.
Okay, so
Thank
sorry, just so I understand, are you suggesting we would be, like, I just want to understand about improving the housing we presently own or other
Or
housing?
operating. I mean, this is a public policy for Canada, not just for LMCH.
Okay,
So the consideration about the operating budget is because they are thinking about just new houses, like new things that are gonna be built, not the ones that are already built and need operational resources,
okay,
budget. So I think that's a smart consideration because they shouldn't be focused only in the new ones. They should be focused also in the one that we already have, but we need to operate in a better way.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, no, I understand, thanks very much.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? No, it's been moved and seconded then, all in favor? Thank you very much. So I'm gonna turn things over to the head of the finance committee to present he'll first present the package of information reports, provide us with a summary, and then we'll go on to the individual reports. Go ahead, Chair.
Okay. So there are a number of reports for information that Finance Audit and Risk Committee reviewed in our recent meeting. Try and give a quick, anyways, all the reports are in the package. Director of Finance report, Corporate Services. Rob put on a number of changes in these areas, just noted, talked about the insurance coming up, and we'll deal with that renewal at the Finance Committee. HR wise, we're now at full complement we were talking about. Next report was on the KPIs, and I think two things to note there. We did have a vacancy increase to 3.5%, so not where we want to be, but it was explainable due to the news renovated CMUC units coming back online, and that should be a temporary threat. And pest control is another key area of discussion. Our infestation rate has declined slightly, but we still have a lot of active units, 90% of active units being treated. Next report was on the Q2 financials. Rob was delighted to report a surplus for the first 6 months of the year. It was significantly ahead of budget. The areas of variances, which were well highlighted in the report, rental revenues, overall revenues are up to 470,000. Salaries were down in the period as a significant expense of 580, mostly due to the organization not being at full complement. Asset renewal was presented as well, and Reimagine phase 1 and 2, and then the capital update. Sorry, seeking those all at once, but the key points on Reimagine 1 is we are done now and phasing or looking at occupancy in September, I believe. Just final cleanup and deficiency items going there. And Reimagine phase 2 has been awarded. Good bid went into Norlawn, and I believe that has mobilized and construction will be starting shortly. Is that correct?
Yep,
Yep.
demo underway on the search.
Great.
You're prepared to move all those reports?
I'm prepared to move all those reports.
All right, let's get a seconder for those. Sarah will second it. So any questions or comments on the package of information reports? Screen, anybody here? All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? And I'll turn things back to the chair for the reports for approval to present those.
Be looking for the staff, so John's got a number of reports and he's on my agenda anyways, could be speaking to the.
Briefly, that's all I asked because of the agenda.
Take it away.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
go
you.
ahead, John, sorry.
Thank you, and through the chair, the first report, and can I hit them all in sequence then?
Yeah, and then
at one time?
we'll get them done individually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, first one, is, number 27. It's a request for approval to, allocate 510,000 within the CMHC program, to, a project, which will see, accessibility, compliant signage, in all 8 CMHC high-rise buildings. And the second, request in that same report is for a budget allocation of 1.4 million within the CMHC program to a new capital budget to put air source heat pumps in 8 the same buildings at 175,000 each. This is just a request to allocate those budgets, and then subsequently there will be approvals for here's how we're going to spend it, award a contract to XYZ, that sort of thing. Those monies are coming from unallocated funds within the CMHC program that total about 3 million. And you'll see in a further subsequent FAR report on this agenda, additional requests being made, but in another FAR report to allocate more of those monies to other projects.
Thank you very much. You're prepared to move it,
With that.
and a seconder, Sarah, you're in front of me, so you're gonna be second.
Yeah.
Yeah, seconded by Sarah. So questions, comments on that particular report? Being none, then all in favor? Thank you very much. Chair, I'll just move them on to the next report, which is number 28. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you. Through the chair, this is a request for reallocation of 175,000 from general contingency to capital funds to Berkshire retaining wall project that has funding already. We a budget of 200,000 allocated. We need a total of about 375,000 to be able to award a contract, and that's second part of the report, approving a request to award a construction contract to A1 Restoration for 335. Given that the budget was 200,000 and we'd like to do the retaining wall and the parking paving at the same time, that optimizes the whole project spend, so that that approval request for general contingency dollars gets us it.
Thank you very much, and you're prepared to move it. A second, I'll get somebody new. Gary, thank you very much. So it's moved and seconded. Questions or comments? Being none, all in favor? One of the things I just, again, we went through these at length at the committee level, so I think that's probably part of the reason that we're not gonna spend so much time on it tonight, but the reports are appreciated, again. So again, we'll go to the next, which is number 29, which is the Pond Mills Playground.
Thank you. Through the chair. This is to request approval for a budget allocation of 125,518 within an existing project that has adequate funds allocated to do exterior works at Pond Mills. This is the last playground in family sites that previous ones were approved by FAR and the board to put playgrounds in other family sites. This one was not approved at the time or recommended even at the time. So allocating 125,000 within an overall approved budget allocation exterior works at Pond Mills will get us there. And it also is a request to award a contract to effect that playground, to install it to a company called Play Power Incorporated.
Good. And Chair will move it, seconded by Kara. Questions, comments? Being none, we had a very interesting discussion on this at the committee about and the deputy mayor made some really interesting points about where the line is between us providing what we want to provide, which is housing, and providing something that's sort of ancillary to that, but we did get to approving it, but he actually kept me interested for about 20 minutes, the deputy mayor, so it was a good moment. It was very interesting, actually. So I don't know if you wanted to add to that, but I thought it was a very interesting discussion.
Well, I will say that might be the first time I've ever had you listen to me for 20 minutes and stay engaged in like the 7 years I've known you. So that might be a new record.
It is.
But also, yeah, I did raise this because, you know, we talk about, and as we've been working through our strategic plan and our capital asset renewal and everything like that, we've been talking very much about how our first and primary role is to be a good landlord and provide housing. And this really falls more into amenity space that perhaps is better provided and should have an expectation of being provided more through municipal parks than through LMCH, devoting space for that, and whether or not we might need to be having discussions with the city in the future as we intensify some of our existing properties, perhaps develop new properties, especially if the feds give us some money, that maybe we should be considering whether a portion of those parcels of land should be severed off for neighborhood parks, where we're encouraging everyone in the neighborhood to come and play rather than focusing exclusively on our LMCH children. So it's a discussion I think that is worth having with the city in the future. At the same time, you know, as I said at the committee, this is our only family site that doesn't have a playground renewal recently. I do think we need to move ahead with this one for now, because I do see the value in these for our neighborhoods, but I also think that there's a broader discussion, particularly when we look at the increasing costs of playgrounds. And I know school boards, for example, which have their own problems at the moment, but they have foisted playground replacements onto home and schools to fundraise and replace. The board doesn't budget for those. It's not part of their capital planning. And I think that we need to ask ourselves from a housing perspective, if that's a model we need to move to in the future, not in terms of putting it onto a home and school and saying to parents, you've got to fundraise for it, but to saying to the city, these really function as park spaces, and perhaps the provision of playgrounds should be part of a parks and recreation capital plan rather than LMCH expense. And so that's a discussion I think that's probably best had as we move forward and look at the Parks and Recreation Master Plan update for the next 5 years is going on right now. The next city multi-year budget is not until 2027, so we have some time, but I do think it's something that perhaps we should be asking ourselves, should we really be paying for these from the LMCH budget, or should the city be paying for these from a Parks and Recreation perspective?
Yeah, as I said, I thought it was an interesting discussion. We finally did agree, of course, to support this for the reasons you gave, but I appreciated discussion. I just wanted to make sure we shared that with the board as a whole, that we had an interesting discussion about. So in any event, anything further on that? All right.
If Melissa can get me a clip from that committee or from tonight from this meeting, if she can just give me a 2-minute clip of you saying, I kept you engaged for 20 minutes, that'd be great.
Well, maybe it wasn't 20 minutes, but no, it was I got to say, it was a very interesting discussion, a very worthwhile discussion. And I didn't interrupt you in any way. I think I should get credit for that. So thank you very much. All in favor? Thank you. Next is 30 Booley and Penny Lane.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. There's a number of approvals in here, which I'm going to quickly summarize, but first paint a picture of why you're seeing this report in the first place. We engaged staff internally to look at siding at our different family sites, and Booley and Penny Lane came to the front of the line in terms of needing upgrade. Siding replacement for a number of reasons: faded, holes, cracked, birds nesting, basically looking awful. So those two came to the fore, and with the realization that we have some funds available through either CMHC program funding. This is to the tune of almost 720,000. That's at approve a budget allocation of 720,000. To project for exterior works at Booley. This is the report that I alluded to. In the first report I talked to, where we're taking monies from $3 million of CMHC that's unallocated and putting it in to exterior works at Booley. So we have those funds. We have displaced Kochi funding budget dollars. I'll take you a table in a second. We have a recommendation to also use under budget funds from a project, a roofing project that we're reducing the scope of work on. Basically then we need to create a new capital budget. That's the third, number 3, approve a new capital budget at Penny Lane. So 2025-0042 is a new project. That's why it's in here. It was not at the time we presented the 2025 budget. So new project there, and allocation of Kochi funding, 740,000, displaced Kochi funding rather, and approved budget reallocation of 400,000 for Walnut Roof. I'll take you to the third page of the FAR report just briefly and explain the Kochi displaced dollars. As you recall, we've received upwards of 960,000, almost $1 million of Kochi funding. We've utilized that in county projects, predominantly paving, some other roof and window work in the counties. We've used those Kochi dollars on approved budgeted projects. That means that we have some budgeted dollars that have been displaced. It's not quite a total of 960,000 or almost $1 million that's being displaced. Rather, it's at 740,311 because we're keeping some in reserve in case we need contingency dollars within individual projects. So that's where the 740,000 is coming from. If you go to the last page of the FAR report, this explains everything in a nice summed up format. The project needs are, we need 250,000 to do the siding replacement at Penny Lane. We need 1.8, that's up a high-end bid of a number of bids where we got quotes to replace the siding at Booley. So being a bit conservative, some of the other bids were, significantly lower, but we're wrestling with that. And then obviously we'll be making a contract award recommendation subsequently. We have masonry repairs budget dollars. We have foundation repair budget dollars and other envelope repair dollars. So a total of 2.16 million required to do Booley, all that envelope stuff, and 250,000 at Penny Lane means we need 2.4 million. Those dollars, subject to being approved by the board, come from 250,000 displaced Kochi dollars, the balance of which, if you go to the third last line in the available funds, the balance of which is 490,311, that goes over to Booley. We have an existing $400,000 budget, approved budget at Booley. In that project 0009, we have an approved budget of 150. In that project 0010, $400,000 subject to the board approving. Walnut's roof replacement excess, we had 600,000 budgeted at Walnut. We're reducing the scope of work to just $200,000, doing a lower roof at Walnut, not touching the upper roof because it's not necessary. Then we have that, again, aforementioned CMHC project dollars that we've asked for approval. That basically makes the available funds equal the need. That's everything summed up in one glance.
Thank you. You're prepared to move it?
Yeah.
All right. Seconder, let's get someone off the. Councilor McAllister, I just want to make sure you're paying attention, so we'll get you to second that one. Thank you so much. Questions, comments? There being none, all in favor? That matter is passed. The last report is number 31, which is our favorite subject, which is pest control. And Sarah, you are going to, with that lead in and that introduction, we are expecting big things from you.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Through the chair, as many of you are aware, we have engaged in a kind of RFP process for our pest control services. Today, we are seeking your approval to award the pest control services contracts to 2 vendors in accordance with our purchasing policies and guidelines. The specific recommendations are to approve the award of contract for pest control services to 2 service providers as set out in this report. we seek approval on entering into service agreement with Global Pest Control Solutions. We seek your approval to enter into service agreement with Pest Control Plus Incorporated, and seeking to authorize us to move forward. So taking, I think, John's approach and some high-level pieces of context, I'm sure you may have some questions for me, which is wonderful. So again, we are looking to award the services to two companies, Pest Control and Global. As you know, since 2019, pest control costs have increased significantly over time. We've seen a variability in terms of results. Our team is doing wonderful things to get a handle on.
There's an amber, just hold on a second. We're all blowing up here because there's an amber alert. We'll just let everybody
Yes,
go ahead.
shall I continue?
Yes, I think we're all, everyone's okay. Here.
Sorry, yeah. We through this contract award process, we're quite confident that we've negotiated a standardized pricing that will deliver some substantial costs, about 16% cost reduction versus the prior treatment rates that we've experienced. Some of the key things that are in the report that I won't go into detail is that we do fundamentally believe that there should be some significant tenant impacts around preparation support, a more flexible treatment approach, which will lead to hopefully success and uptake, and an ongoing education piece that exists through one of our current vendors, but we hope to be enhanced moving forward, which is very important to support our tenants. We feel confident that we have an implementation plan through this transition that allows us to maintain effective service levels and continue a path forward that is positive. Having said that, I open the table for feedback and questions. I'm sure there will be.
Great. Chair, you'll move that?
Yes.
Seconder? Kara? Great. Excuse me, questions or comments?
Sorry.
Oh,
Can I?
sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Counselor, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. I guess the two questions that just come to mind, in terms of how confident are we with the track record of the companies, and then also by splitting it between the two in terms of having more of a standardized approach to service, are we confident that that by splitting it and having two different providers that will get the same level of service, or do they do things like fundamentally different? Just trying to get a better sense for that.
Go ahead.
Through the chair. So I would say, I address it in a kind of comprehensive response. So my understanding is that in previous years, we did a multi-vendor approach. The last round, we went to a single vendor approach. Lessons learned through both are that having too many is not ideal, and having one is also not ideal to maintain service levels for perhaps some obvious reasons. We feel that given the vendors that were selected through their service offerings balanced with the competitive pricing, that this dual model, kind of leveraging the strengths of both companies, every company through the evaluation process, right through the presentations, the reference checks, every company will have a unique value proposition, and we think that this combination will allow us to not only maintain but increase service standards for the tenants. That gives us a little bit more flexibility, allows us to really drive that kind of price control model, which will hope to stabilize our budget moving forward, and do offer a few unique services to our tenants in terms of prep and education that we think are different than before and unique. So the evaluation team, I was not on, but I do know I received many conversations and feedback, and they're quite confident in their approach to vendor model. It does give us a little bit of breathing room to be strategic and actually QI in there when you have that flexibility too.
Yeah, thank you for that. And just through the chair again, just one question to follow up on that. Just for the board's awareness, I think it would just be good. Obviously, we stay on top of this. It's a topic that comes up a lot. But just in terms of the feedback that we get moving forward, I think it'll be important for the board to know. Because I think my only fair point in terms of going from one to two. I think I just always wonder when there's multiple vendors. I just don't want to get into a situation where one does a better job than the other, and then we end up having to essentially do the thing twice over. So I think that's the only thing that just raises my caution a little bit. But we get these reports regularly, and I think obviously we need to try something different. So I'm willing to give this a shot. But yeah, just moving forward to keep eyes on it. So thank you for the
Want to
answers.
respond to that? Very good.
Chair, I think I understand your concerns. And we took that into consideration as well, which has led to the outcome of this. So I do believe the conversations that were had with the vendors around their willingness to work collaboratively, we have to be working toward a singular goal. There is procurement processes and contractual relationships, but ultimately we have confidence that we've selected vendors that share our vision for our tenants. And it is up to us to appropriately manage the vendor. But again, driving those outcomes that will be felt by the tenants, I think that we feel is a mutual goal across all parties. And to your point, there's a lot of work to do ahead of us. We have to report, we have to see, are the actions we're taking making the difference we hope to see? And we need to be monitoring that, not quarterly, but all the time, right? So it is a sensitive topic. We recognize that we've had some successes, but also have had some missteps along the way. And we really want to get this right moving forward.
Other questions? Oh, Sarah, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe this is not the case with this one, but I've seen that we have kind of a huge gap sometimes between the number of people who, like, they say they are interested in the process, like to participate as a vendor, and the number of vendor who participate. Like there's like 20 sometimes, and this is like 2, 3, 4, 5. So when I see that, I wonder about the process that we do to ensure that we have a really competitive process, that we like promote this process, and we sure that the best are trying to get the contract. So maybe this is not the case in this one, but just to mention that I'm really curious about that gap. Why so many are interested, but at the end, not so many participate?
Through the chair, and I might get Paul to support me. So there's a couple of things you've touched upon that are not specific to this topic in terms of procurement in general. That's a larger discussion that I think would be great to have. The reason why we start with 9 interested and in the end only evaluate 5, and then in the end might have many factors related to it. I'm kind of pulling upon previous experience, which is the nature of the business. This is something that we need a certain scale and size of business to essentially effectively pass certain aspects. We also are a unique business, right? So through the competitive process, through the question and answer period, the beauty of procurement is such that vendors also can choose us.
Yeah.
And so why some may not continue or some fail areas, it's a two-way street. I think in a perfect world, you want competition. In a topic like this, we need quality and want people invested in our vision. And so through certain aspects of procurement stages, we may lose some. I also think that may be for the right reasons too, right? And ultimately, if someone is not competitively bidding, they're choosing not to bid. Right. So it's a little bit of a dance there, but I'm confident we provided a pathway for people to submit their intention and interest. And whether we got everyone or the best one, that is a non-biased process that we follow. Right.
Yeah.
So
Follow up, go ahead.
Through the chair. So I mean, my experience was in rural housing, and that's even harder to find someone interested, because everyone want the urban business, but no one want the rural business, but you have so low income, far away areas, so they are like,
yeah,
thank you.
Yeah.
So I was all the time fighting with constructors and the associations, because I was like, I mean, this is really important because the majority of each country is rural, is where you find the people that have the lowest income. So I was doing that for $200 million annually. So it was really challenging. And that happened a lot. What is
yeah.
happening here?
Yeah.
Like many of them were like, I'm interested, but in the end, just one of two. And I was worried because I was the one in charge of
Yeah.
that money, and I had to ensure that it was a competitive process.
Yeah.
So it was so hard.
I think the other out of scope conversation though is also the question around, you talk about who would be interested. Sometimes with, even though these processes are competitive and appropriate, right, in terms of oversight, this is what happens in Ontario and across Canada is these processes take people out of the market because they can be too much and complicated.
Yeah.
Having said that, we are a big book of business. So we, unfortunately, those who are sophisticated enough who can navigate our procurement. And so that's the challenge, that's the rub,
Yeah.
right? So we are confident, I think, in where we've landed. And we hope, with this time next year to have some success stories for sure. That's our intention. But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Thank you. Kathleen, you had some.
Just, I'm thinking back to some months ago where the nonviolent crisis intervention was offered to the staff and I believe to the vendors too. Will these new vendors be given an opportunity to have the nonviolent crisis intervention? Is just, I've witnessed them going into different units and they're met with aggression a lot of times, and I worry. I was so relieved when we talked about the nonviolent crisis intervention, how they were going to have that. So I just ideally like to see them trained in that.
So I think through the
Yeah,
chair,
go ahead.
I'll take it first.
Sure.
We do offer nonviolent crisis intervention to our staff. We do not provide that to our vendors, but there is some work done with vendors on onboarding and working with our clients and things like our client base and tenants so that they sort of understand some of the nuances that they should be familiar with. So I can't speak to that program. I don't know if Sarah's prepared to at this time. It is a little early on what that transition program will be, but I know that for the last typically in the pest control, there is regular operational meetings with the vendors where they can talk about those issues that we're seeing, that they're seeing, and try to figure out the resolution. But it is, I think for a sector, they're highly regulated. So the way they have to work is very regulated, but they're also used to going into people's homes when they're unhappy with their situation. Like whether that's us, a condo, a standalone home, because people, so I think overall, the temperament of those staff is suited to work with our tenants is the general.
Sometimes they have to deal with quite a bit of aggression.
Yep.
So I worry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Any further comments or questions? I guess my question was, one of the things that, our infant station rate, if I could call it that, is something that we see as kind of stubborn, right? I think we wanted to get it down to 15% and it's at 24%. And I wonder if we're getting information from the vendors or elsewhere as to not necessarily challenges with the work we do, but challenges that we face, whether it's the age of the buildings, or hoarding in our buildings, things that are contributing to that we can make people aware of that would help us with this problem, aside from having vendors come in and treat their apartments.
Yeah, I don't know the process to the chair, but I might like to get some help from Christine. So a couple things that you said there. So these are part of the questions that are asked in interviews in terms of providing your strategic insights as you do the work. Right. I think based on our performance, we haven't figured it out. We know that. So what can you offer us to help us figure this out more and differently? I think in terms of the more generalized challenges that contribute to these problems, that's why those annual unit inspections are so important, so that outside of an immediate acute issue, right, with pests, that we have a better sense of what the units in people's homes look like, right? And so annual inspections are a great way that we can proactively better understand specific units and Christine and her team with the documentation through PAYQUAN, which I'm getting into technical terms and tools, but we think we'll have a stronger handle moving forward where problem sites where we wouldn't be surprised. The thing with pests is that they can surprise you, right? It's the complicated thing. So I don't know, Christine, can I defer to Christine in terms
yeah,
of she
sure.
anything to add
No.
or? Okay.
Yeah, I guess the reason I'm asking that is people often, they view pest control as there's pests in the apartment. It's the fault of London Middlesex Community Housing. End of story.
Yeah.
Nothing else to it.
Yeah.
And I think it's important, although it may be difficult, to point to if there's other factors at work that are causing these problems, aside from our vendors, we should know that or try to know that. And also, whether we like it or not, communicate.
Yeah. And I, through the chair, reflected on that because I'm in a learning mode consultation. Right? I ask everybody what their thoughts and opinions. It's really hard beyond the data that we have and the data that we're willing to explore, experiences we had, to have like a roundtable conversation. So when people ask me great questions, like in the push committee, and you like benchmark, well, we can benchmark to other similar housing type corporations to us. But what also is interesting, what our private sector multi-dwelling buildings dealing with, there isn't a roundtable of people discussing their infestation rates. So it's really hard to know where. That's why you need the 15%. That may be an aspirational target, which we never change, even though we may never get to. I don't know, and I don't know if that's reasonable. I don't know what actually is happening out there, and no one's really willing to talk about it. So I think that's what the challenge is. Are we alone? Absolutely not. Does this happen in the private sector? Absolutely. Does it happen in affordable multi-unit dwelling? Does it happen in individual homes? It happens everywhere. We know generally contributing factors are pretty consistent around, hoarding, stuff like that, and sanitary things. But is there this gold standard that exists and the model that exists, and no? And are people talking about it when they have a problem? Absolutely not.
Right.
So it's a really hard thing to measure, get at, and a way to properly quality improve. And then you overlay with the volume of complexity with our tenant population. And it's a tricky scenario.
Okay. Anything further on that? Right? Okay. Remind me, did we move and seconded that? Yes. All right. All those in favor then? Thank you very much. So those are the reports from that committee. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for your presentation. So we're going to go to the People Services and Housing Committee report. So Mayor Grantham is on the East Coast, I believe. I think, is he not?
The North Shore of Nova Scotia.
So he didn't even grace us with his presence online. I do not blame him. So Sarah is going to present the reports today. So we'll start with the 11 reports that are going to be moved as a package, and you can provide a summary. You were at the meeting, so provide us with a summary of what happened in those matters.
Okay. Yeah, we received 11 reports for information. One of them, we already talked about that. It was included in the finance report, the Q2 KPIs. So we will talk about the 10 that we are not, we haven't talked about those. We received the CEO update. Sarah was explaining the majority of the reports. So Sarah, if you want to make like a more detailed summary, you can do it, but I will just add some general thoughts about that. I think we don't have big concerns related with these reports. We didn't have a lot of questions or debate about that because we find the reports are complete, have all the information that we need to have the necessary information about these topics. So, for me, the one that is more I have we can have more questions was the Bill 10 update.
Oh,
So, I mean, if you want to add something about the rest of them, but everything is in the report. There is that we didn't have like big question about that, but we talk a little bit about the Middleton update. So it's your
Okay, so
Yeah.
what are we doing here? Are you gonna provide a little bit of detail on that?
I could just have to find that report, and unfortunately, through the chair, sorry, it has specific legal language that I don't feel comfortable.
Okay.
with the
Okay.
exact-
Just
So you
plain-
can find the report.
Okay, so why don't we
you
do
might-
this? You received that report and why don't you tell us what it is that was interesting about it?
Yeah.
And then people here will have reviewed the report.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's something you want to say about it, otherwise
I mean, we have a lot of open questions about the consequences or impacts that that bill will have on us. And we are consulting because we need more like legal specialized concepts. So we were like, what does it mean? I mean, this word, what is the implications or impacts that it will have in our organization? And we were like, by now, we know like not that much about that.
So through the chair, I found the language and I'm,
Okay, why don't you provide us what we're looking for, which is a brief summary of what that topic was. And then when we go to questions and comments, the members of the board can pursue what they're interested in pursuing.
yes. So in June, Bill 10 received royal assent, right? And there's a Schedule 8 that enacts the measure respecting premises with the Illegal Drug Activity Act. What that means, so the certain specific aspects of the schedule are landlords must not knowingly allow their premises to be used for prescribed criminal activities, drug production, or trafficking. A statutory defense exists if landlords can prove they took reasonable measures to prevent such activity, for example. And then the second is possession of proceeds. It is also prohibited to knowingly possess the proceeds of any offense under the act. So going back to, some next steps. So, that liability might impact, for example, our insurance, right? So these are the things that we're looking into from an organizational perspective. OMPA seems to be leading the engagement around advocacy, around the lack of acknowledgement of what the realities of social housing and our communities. And so that the argument is that wasn't taken into consideration when you make such a bold schedule and pass that legislation. In the implications with LTB, that's what we're looking into as well too. With that interpretation of legislation with the landlord responsibility, it is concerning because it will impact us for sure. Right?
Okay.
So again, I got a little nervous for a second because it's important that we hear the language that is used, and so there is an interpretation piece to it. I'm sure, of which I'm not qualified to do. That is the language as it is. So, yeah.
Thank you. Anything else on the package of reports that you wanted to?
You
provide us?
have a question, Kathleen?
No, first we gotta get it on the floor.
Yeah,
Then we
no,
will.
no.
Yeah, so I just want you to finish your
Yeah,
comments.
yeah.
You're
Yeah,
finished?
yeah.
Are you prepared to move the package of reports? All right, seconder?
Gary.
Gary seconded it, thank you. So we have it moved and seconded, so any questions or comments about any of the reports?
Just that-
Kathleen, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Just for the arrears rent, it just occurred to me, why are our tenants who receive OW and ODSP, why is the rent not being paid directly from their worker to London Middlesex Community Housing? Why are they able to withhold that portion of their benefit from housing? Wouldn't it make sense to just have that money go from the ministry to London Middlesex Housing directly instead of letting the different people keep it, and then they wouldn't be in arrears?
Yeah, through the chair, I'm going to defer to Alyssa for
I'm sorry, what, could you just, per report was that under?
KPI.
The KPI scorecard?
It's, within the push package, arrears comes up a couple times. So
Okay,
there was a report that was received related to the measures we're taking to address our arrears. I think you're asked, it came up public a few
Great.
times. So, yeah.
Through the chair, unfortunately, OW and police cannot mandate direct payments to us. Many tenants do choose that route. They sign paperwork with the WDSP and we receive on the first of the month, the last day of the month, we receive significant payments for vast majority of OW or DSP recipients. But there are some who choose not to go on pre-authorized payments. And so they would come and pay rent directly sometimes.
But if they're not paying the rent, then why isn't the worker going back to them and saying, well, if you're not gonna use the benefit, we're not gonna continue to pay it out?
okay, but that would be the worker for ODSP or Ontario Works, not us.
Okay, well, I just don't see why we can't insist that they have a direct payment of the rent from the ministry.
But I don't think it's legal to do it.
Chair, it is not legal for us to insist on that. We continue to work with the W or DSP. We encourage them to send payments to us directly, and again, frequently they're successful in ensuring tenants cooperation with us.
Thank you.
Sean, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I Kathleen raises a very good point. And maybe that there's some discussion that needs to be had with the Minister of Housing, but to follow up on what she's asking, is LMCH notifying OW or ODSP workers when a tenant is in arrears, or are we simply working with the tenant, you know, on a good faith that they will be discussing the situation with their worker? Because I think it's important, if we're not communicating it to the worker themselves, I think that there's a gap in communication that needs to be filled here, because I agree with Kathleen. If you're getting social assistance for this, there's no excuse to be in arrears. So there may be some provincial pieces that currently say we can't require it. But what is our process in terms of notifying OW or ODSP? We know who our tenants are who are on assistance. So what are we doing to identify the problem with the agency versus discussion with the tenant?
We do both. We are obligated to communicate with the tenant regarding arrears, and then we'll also reach out to Ontario Works to let them know of arrears. We'll also let them know proactively if someone's subsidy is terminated. It's usually 90 days notice, so we proactively notify them that 90 days rent will be increased to market, so that again, engagement does happen.
Deputy Mayor, did you have a follow-up?
Okay, that's helpful, because I think that's you know, that's a discussion that perhaps needs to be had with Minister Flack around, you know, if a tenant falls behind to the point where their rent is raised to market rent because the subsidy has ended for arrears, and then they get back into status. I think that the province needs to recognize that this is a problem and consider whether or not at that point, once we've reached that point where they've had to go to market and then reattain their status, maybe there's a discussion that needs to be had about whether at that point it should become mandatory as a condition of continuing to receive the subsidy that the rent is paid directly to LMCH. Because this, I agree with Kathleen, there's no excuse for your rent income, which is already extremely low on these benefits, to not be paid when the government is giving you the money to pay it. So appreciate the answers from staff. But I think Kathleen raises a good point, and it's something I'm certainly going to have some further discussions with both the minister and the mayor about when we have the opportunity to do that.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Kara, go ahead.
Through the chair, my question is, it's not all people that live in subsidized housing are on assistance. So some people work and that can affect it too, right? Because there's no one to report them to. They don't have to have mandate to have someone pay the rent for them. So I think that makes a difference too, because you can't force them to pay the rent. You can't hold them accountable to pay the rent. And I also know through working in the field that I work through, when it comes to the rent stuff too, is they don't do their taxes, they can't provide us with what we need. So that makes a big difference in that scenario too. I just wanted to say that. Eric.
Thank you. Anything else? Yep, go ahead.
So when we like report that information, we receive any response from them? Like, yeah, we are giving money to that person and thank you for letting us know that they are not paying.
Through the chair, there are a number of responses we get. Sometimes we receive confirmation that file was closed or file is on hold
Okay.
for whatever reason. Sometimes they do let us know that they released funds to the tenant and tenant is responsible to pay rent. And in some cases, we're able to work through discretionary benefits or some other assistance where perhaps they're going to work with the tenant and either put them in overpayment, but to make these payments to us. Sometimes they refer to Housing Stability Bank for assistance. So again, we keep open communication with workers on a regular basis.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on that one? All right, it's been moved and seconded then. All those in favor of the package, full package of reports for information. It's approved, thank you. We'll go to the People Services and Housing reports for approval. First is report 32, the communications policy. Do we have anything you would like to add on that?
No, not through the chair, I guess, just to mention that the policy was refined to be more high level and separate out the procedural based information that was in the previous policies to just more being a very high level.
All right. We need mover, seconder, you prepared to move that report? Thank you, and seconded, Greg, you seconded for me, thank
Sure.
you. So it's moved and seconded. Questions on the communications policy?
Just a comment.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad that we are doing that, like having like not that long policy document. And we don't have to see the procedures, but we need to see the policy that can be like 4 or 5 pages. So just to say that what you're doing is in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions? One thing I would like to add, and we were going to add a separate item, but we're not going to do it anymore. There was issues about communication policy and the board becoming involved in communications. I can tell you that I did discuss this with the deputy mayor, Councillor McAllister, and Mayor Grantham, and they have agreed that in appropriate cases where it is felt that a member of the board should be speaking, and I sort of felt that it was most appropriate that political voices speak on particular issues, that we'll be accessing those voices and letting them speak to particular issues, including speaking to the media on those issues, largely because you know, it's hard to have operational people out in the media trying to explain things. Political persons, it's not necessarily they love doing it, but they know how to do it. They're used to doing it. And they also have the advantage of being able to speak to people that we don't get a chance to speak to normally, being their colleagues. So I just want everyone to know, and I don't want to have much discussion about it, but why we would do that. I just want to say that I did follow up on that, and we're gonna start doing that and take some of that weight, I think, properly off operational. It's very difficult if you're the operational person managing something to respond to what someone else might say. So that will be going ahead moving forward. Yep. Go ahead. Did you want to say something? Go ahead.
So I know that political members of this board are so qualified to do this. But I would love to see someone like Kathleen, like doing something like that, being she represents the tenants, and she's so good, like learning, speaking, having good questions. So, I mean, we all are political people. They are politically exposed. Like, I know it's another level, right? So just to say that I would love to see someone like Kathleen who loves her house, who do a lot. Like, that's the kind of voices that I would like to see. Someone that is politically active in some way, but it, like, yeah, it's just representing herself. So yeah.
Yeah, so I wasn't gonna go into too much detail. There was actually part of the discussion that I have had with the political folks was exactly about that. And if you want to take it a little step further, it would be somebody, one of our, tenant members of the board, working with one of our political members to do that. So I think that's a really good point. But it's definitely something we're considering. There's nothing to stop us from doing that. Deputy Mayor?
Yes, and through you, Chair, that absolutely did come up when we were discussing this, and I know, so I was actually going to ask as well, Phil, without getting into too much detail on it tonight, but if we had discussions, because I know you and I had discussed if there might be opportunities for some media training for members of the board who might be interested in taking on a role like this in the future, because sometimes it's not appropriate for the elected officials to be representing the board, and particularly next May, we will be going into an election cycle. And so I do think that we need some backup spokespeople when that time arrives, because we will be in a position where we will have to, if the political candidates speak, we have to be mindful that we're speaking in a way that's not related to campaign issues. And so I do think it would be good to have some board members get some of that training sometime in the next, 6 to 8 months, and have some backup there. Just so that it's not necessarily always going to be the elected officials, because I do agree. And I will say, not to twist anyone's arms, but Kathleen, I do think you would be wonderful at this.
Yeah.
So would love it if you thought that might be something you'd be considering taking on. But everybody has to be comfortable with that role too. I know not everybody's comfortable speaking to a camera, so but I just wanted to share that as in follow-up to Sarah's comments, that I think it's worth looking at having a couple other board members able to step in when it's perhaps less appropriate for, or as a team up with an unelected representative.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I'm prepared to discuss any of those things with Matt and Paul and Sarah. I don't close the door on any of that. I'm hesitant because of the role I presently held as a provincial employee, sitting on a board, to get involved in any kind of media discussion, because I did it once and I got in trouble because you never know where it's gonna go. So that's why I never really speak out. But others, I'm not really the kind of chair who says I don't want other people to ever say anything. I would prefer, in my case, that other people do speak up. And the reason I think we can do that is because we're usually ad idem on most issues. In other words, you would not have a board member, presumably, going on in the media saying, yeah, all those terrible things that LMCH is accused of doing, they do. We don't have to worry about that. So I think we can open the door to those kind of things for sure. Yeah. Anything else? We can make you a star, Kathleen.
Yeah. I'm sure.
So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Thanks very much. The next report is the market rent increase. Yeah.
Chair, sorry, just to interrupt before staff present. I do have another meeting that I have to be at.
Sure.
I kind of delayed. I'm already late by 12 minutes, so I'm gonna take my leave. I was hoping we might be done by 6:30 and I could stay for the whole meeting, but not quite there, so I have to take my leave.
Right. Thank you very much. Have a great evening. Don't
Thank
work too
you.
late.
Not past 9:30.
There you go. So we'll move on to the market rent increase. Go ahead.
Chair, looking for the goal to increase market rent rates for 2026. The recommended increase is 2.1%, which follows the provincial rent increase guideline. We normally implement these increases for each household during their annual lease renewal. The impact of this recommendation on tenants is limited to those who are in market rent, and we do not anticipate any additional costs.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are you prepared to move that report? You're gonna move it first. And seconder, thank you, Kathleen. Questions, comments? Go ahead.
Does we know what is the financial impact for us of this increase?
What the number,
Sorry, I don't.
The total, you mean?
Yeah,
And
through the chair, I was gonna clarify, you're looking for the singular number of what a 2.1% on market increase then.
yeah,
I
how
don't-
much is
I
that?
know,
Yeah.
Do we get back to?
yeah, let's go. Yep.
I just for clarification, so one of the challenges we have is if you are an RGI household, which is between 95 and 99% of our households at any given time, you do not see an increase, and we do not see an increase in the subsidies we receive. So there, we can come back with the number and percentage of households that are paying full market rent on a consistent basis, not due to temporary loss of subsidy, and we can build that into future discussions on it. So the number is going to be very small, but you know, it could be a few hundred households are going to get a 2.5% increase that we're going to see a revenue lift on, right? So that's just sort of the complexity of it. So it requires quite a bit of analysis to actually drill down, figure out each year how many that is, but we can do that for the next and provide that information as the next push committee, just so that you have that information.
So, I mean, I think that would be fine
Yeah.
to do that online for the next meeting if people
Yeah.
want to know that. Yeah.
Perfect.
Anything further on that? All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? That matter is passed. Thank you very much, Sarah, for doing those reports on short notice. Very much appreciated. So we'll move on to if there's any presentations. There are not. There are no in-camera items. There are no, I should ask, sorry, any new business or inquiries? There are none, so we will go to meeting adjournment, and Kara said she would be happy to move adjourning a meeting at any time. No, you're gonna do it? You're gonna do it. And Greg will second it, and we'll all vote in favor. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
meeting.
Spot.